Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Laurel Page, and I'm the Assistant Director of Events at the University of Colorado Boulder's Leeds School of Business. Welcome to our 7th COVID-19 webinar series. These continue to be trying times, and here at CU Boulder, we have gathered our world-renowned faculty and alumni to provide frank and timely insights for life during the COVID-19 pandemic. Today is the third of 6 webinars in this COVID-19 related webinar series. To view upcoming webinars, please visit colorado.edu/business/alumni. Click the drop-down arrow and click Attend Online Webinars. For today's webinar, we're excited to welcome Debra Jason, here presenting Creating a Dynamic LinkedIn Profile that Encourages Engagement in the Midst of COVID-19. A few housekeeping items before we begin. First, if you have any questions now or during the presentation that you would like to ask Debra, please submit using the Q&A interface. We will monitor questions as they are submitted, and Debra will respond to them at the end of the presentation. As a reminder, for optimum audio quality, we do have everyone on mute except for myself and our speaker. If you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please notify us through the chat interface and one of our support specialists will touch base. Lastly, a link to access the webinar recording will be sent to all registrants tomorrow, along with a survey link and supplemental resources from today's presentation. Now, I am excited to introduce today's speaker. Debra Jason is a professional marketing speaker, author, direct response copywriter, and multi-faceted marketing mentor. Debra Jason started her entrepreneurial journey when she opened her doors for business as a writer in 1989. Since then, she has personally written thousands upon thousands of words for hundreds of clients around the country and some overseas. She is the author of the award-winning book, Millionaire Marketing on a Shoestring Budget: How to Attract a Steady Stream of Happy Clients, Make More Money, and Live Your Dream. She is also a contributing author with the New York Times best-selling author Joel Comm of So What Do You Do? Discovering the Genius Next Door with One Simple Question. Welcome, Debra, and thank you so much for being here. I'm going to hand over the webinar controls to you now.
Thank you so much, Laurel, and thank you everyone for taking time out of your day to be here with us today. The first thing that we're going to do is ask you to complete this poll. So you should see on your screen a poll that's asking, how would you rate your LinkedIn profile? 1 being boring and 5 being you think your profile is a LinkedIn rock star. So click the one that you think best applies to you, and that will give me a feel of where everybody is today. We're getting quite a bit of mediocres, some are boring. Congrats to those of you that feel that you're good or pretty good. But my guess is, here we have the results. You can see that 45% of you feel like your profile is mediocre. So that's great to know, because what we're going to talk about today is how you can stop feeling like this, okay? Feeling like confused and baffled and frustrated about your LinkedIn presence. And what I want you to keep in mind is that more and more people today are searching LinkedIn and doing their due diligence before they meet you, whether they're meeting you in person. Some people are still doing that 6 feet away, or whether they're meeting you virtually. They're searching you, and you are in a position then to win or lose based on what they find when they get to your LinkedIn profile and your activity there. So whether you are job hunting or whether you're looking for some publicity and visibility, this is your opportunity. LinkedIn gives you the opportunity to demonstrate that you are an industry expert and to build your thought leadership as a trusted voice in that industry. And my favorite one is that it enables deeper engagement with your professional community. Today, we're talking about engagement and how do you create that engagement. One of the most important things is by having what we call a robust and optimized profile. Because if somebody gets to your LinkedIn profile and it doesn't draw them in, there won't be any engagement. Because social media, social networking, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever platform you prefer, it's all about getting engaged. It's about being involved. And what I say, it's about building and nurturing relationships so that you develop what's called the KLT factor. That's know, like, and trust. The photo you're looking at right now, this is Bob Berg, and he and his co-author, John David Mann, wrote a series called The Go-Giver. And in that series, they talk about that all things being equal, people do business with and refer business to the people they know, like, and trust. So LinkedIn gives you the opportunities to start developing that know, like, and trust with your personal profile and the relationships that you develop there. Because when you do social networking right, okay, it replaces that handshake and becomes a hug. And of course, we're talking about pre-COVID days, but you may have had that experience. And if you want to type in the chat whether you have or not, let me explain. You connect with someone on LinkedIn or on Twitter or on any of the networks you've never met in person before, but you start to build and nurture a relationship on that platform. And then when you've met in person, that first meeting was a handshake. And John Burroughs is saying, yes, he's had that experience. So definitely, if you think about it, you want to build and nurture relationships. But to do that, you need that robust and optimized profile, because this statistic comes from LinkedIn, and they say when you have a complete profile, you're 40 times more likely to receive opportunities through LinkedIn. So that's what we're going to go over today. And we're going to do it in the form of a game show as we talk about mistakes that people make commonly on LinkedIn, and they could be costly. But the good news is you can fix them. Or if you don't have a profile at all yet, then you can avoid the mistakes that people make. So I want you all to be by your keyboards, because you're going to play this game and you're going to answer these questions. The game is called Fact or Fiction. So I will put up a slide and you're going to type in the chat whether you think the point that's made on that slide is fact or fiction. And now I'll explain it to you after you put your answer in. So get ready, hands on the keyboard. Fact or fiction? LinkedIn profiles with photos get 78 times more views. Fact or fiction?
Deborah, our audience is saying this is a fact.
A fact, yes. And actually now I can see the chat. So that's awesome. Lots of people saying fact, fact, fact. So I forgot to tell you, there are some trick questions in here. And this is one of them, because actually it's fiction. And I will explain why. So one of the mistakes people make is that they don't have a photo at all on their profile, okay? The correct statistic is when you do have a photo, you don't get 78 times more views, but LinkedIn says you'll get anywhere from 14 to 21 times more views. So look at your profile. Do you have a photo up there? And we're going to talk about that a little bit more, which brings us to this fact or fiction. It only takes 100 milliseconds to form an impression of someone just by looking at a photo of their face. Fact or fiction? We've got fact, fact. I see one fiction, fact, fact. Okay, let's see what the answer is. It is indeed fact. And so this statistic comes from two psychologists at Princeton who said 80 to 90% of that first impression is they're looking at, are you trustworthy and are you competent? Are you trustworthy and are you competent? Just by looking at your photo. Which brings us to fact or fiction number 3. This is a photo that's actually posted on somebody's LinkedIn profile. Fact or fiction? I always love this one because it's almost so crazy that people get it right. And it is fact. Okay, now here's the next question I want you to answer. When you look at this photo, what do you think this person does for a living? Do you think he is an accountant, an actor, a comedian, a hacker? Let's see what people are saying here, Laurel. Hacker, hacker, a hacker, an actor, an accountant, another hacker. So let me tell you, a comedian. Thanks everyone for playing along because this person is actually a certified public accountant. Now, why he has a mask on his face and this was posted pre-COVID, I don't know. My guess is he wants his customers and clients to think that he will help them hide things on their taxes. I'm not sure. But if you look at the photo, do you think he's trustworthy and competent? Which brings us to some of these photos. Now, I don't show you these to make fun of people. I show them to you as a learning experience because these are all real photos posted on people's LinkedIn profiles. And remember, we're talking about you should have a professional photo, something that makes you look trustworthy and competent. So if you're looking at this slide, what do you think that little boy on the left-hand side, what do you think that person does for a living? He looks cute. Nurse, no idea. Yeah, you would not have any idea. Look, a mom, a child care owner, a father, an au pair. You know, it's interesting. A lot of people say that about that picture up in the left-hand corner, a kindergartner. What that person does, so I'm not sure if you could see my little arrow on my cursor scrolling around. This person is an eye doctor. And he's not even a pediatric eye doctor. And the child's not even wearing glasses. So why did he use that photo? I'm not sure. And if you were to look at the baby below, that person is a daycare provider. However, let's say you have children and you found a daycare provider on LinkedIn. Wouldn't you want to see what they looked like to know whether you thought they were trustworthy and competent? So keep in mind, your photo doesn't have to be, how do we have our photo impression judged? Well, John, if you think about it, many people make judgments as soon as they see a picture, and that's what the psychologist said at Princeton. 80 to 90% of people look at a photo and in their head, they're thinking, is that person trustworthy? Is that person competent? I'm not saying it's the best way to go, but I think it's kind of true that many of us will make judgments subconsciously or consciously when we see someone's photo. So you want your photo, it doesn't have to be a professional photographer who takes it, but you want it to look professional. So put on something nice, stand with a nice backdrop. Don't take the selfie where your camera's pointing up your nose. Ask someone to take a photo of you, okay? Ask somebody and then crop it in a way that looks nice. I had a client once who I said, you need a better photo. And what he did was he took his wedding photo, he and his bride, and then he cropped his bride out. So you could see her hand on his shoulder, and there he was in his tux. It really didn't look very professional. So keep that in mind. Let's move forward to fact or fiction number 4. The use of keyword phrases is only important on your website. It's not important on your LinkedIn profile. Fact or fiction? Fiction, fiction, fiction. Okay. You guys, you got it. It is fiction. So the mistake that people make when they get to their LinkedIn profiles is they don't use keyword phrases. Now I'm showing you this slide. I've whited out the person's name for privacy. But this person, let's say, was John Doe or Jeanette Doe, and they said their professional headline, which is right under your name. Okay, they said they were the owner of the ABC Day Spa. Owner and founder are not really keyword phrases unless you have a business that you are looking for investors or angel investors, or you want to sell your business. In that case, there might be people searching LinkedIn for owners and founders. and the ABC company or the XYZ day spa is not a keyword phrase either, unless you are really, really well known. For example, Canyon Ranch would be well known. If you're in real estate, Remax would be well known. So your professional headline is just one of those places you want to have keyword phrases. So think about this. If somebody doesn't know you, they don't know your name, and they don't know your company, and they're searching LinkedIn for somebody like you, what would be the keyword phrase or keyword phrases that they would search to find someone like you? Keep that in mind, okay? Fact or fiction number 5. Because you have a job description under your current work experience, you don't need to worry about the section that's known as the About section. And when LinkedIn first launched, it was called the Summary section. So fact or fiction? Fiction, fiction, fiction. Yep, you guys, you're doing great. It is fiction. So this is what somebody's job experience looked like. But the mistake that many people make is they don't complete what's known as the About section, okay? This is actually a client of mine, and this was her old profile. We worked together a little while ago, because if you look at LinkedIn now, the format is quite different. But there's 3 things I want to point out here for you. First was that Angela did not have an About section, okay? So I'm going to show you that in a moment, but I want to show you a couple of other things on this slide because it demonstrates 3 really good points. When Angela started, she had what's called the constellation image, and recently LinkedIn changed this blue background you see behind her. That's valuable real estate, okay? You want to put not just an image in there, but you want to put an image that has your contact information, whether you want to share a website or an email or a phone number. It's not clickable, it's not linkable, but it's so easy for somebody to see how to reach out to you when they get to your profile. The next thing I want to show you about this slide is Angela in her name field. Okay, it says Angela Gaffney, keynote speaker, corporate wellness. In your name field, the only thing that should be in there is your name. You can put any certifications or degrees, like a Master of Arts or Master of Science, or in the speaking world, we have what's known as a CSP, a Certified Speaking Professional. So that's okay, but at LinkedIn terms, say just your name in the name field. Now, underneath her name, you'll see it says the Daily Essentials Cookbook and Collection Breakfast. That's her professional headline. And so at that point in time, that was not keyword enhanced. You need keyword phrases in there. You need to have maybe a positioning statement that defines how you help people, but you can then have keywords as well. And I'm going to show you what happened after we worked together. Okay, so this was Angela's profile. Now, and actually she's since changed this, and I think I have a slide to show you, but you can see she's a speaker. So she put on her banner a photo of her speaking, then she put her website, her email, her phone number, because that's how she wants people to reach out to her. Again, it's not clickable or linkable. You have to go to the contact information box if you want to actually click through, but it's so easy now for people to see how to reach her. You'll also see her name field now just has her name, and her professional headline has keyword phrases. So she's not just a keynote speaker, she's a wellness keynote speaker. So for example, if you're a project manager, what kind of project manager are you? Are you working in IT or some other field? Be specific. And then she says that she's specializing in nutrition, stress management, and work-life balance. All those things are keywords for her. So here's what her About section looked like after we worked together. Remember, she had none before. What I want you to keep in mind, I want you to write this down if you have a pen and paper nearby. Your About section is a little bit about you, but then how do you help people? So if you're looking for a job, you don't necessarily want to say, I'm looking for a job, I'm looking for opportunities. You want to focus on what have you done in the past that inspired you to pursue whatever you're pursuing, okay? So you might say, I excel at working with people. And so I help companies put together their teams in a way that is productive and nurtures relationships. And I'm just kind of making this up on the cuff, on the fly. So you want your about section to be written in first person. Okay, so first person, talk a little bit about you. And you can see here, Angela said she survived a health crisis that nearly took her life. So that's a little bit about her. But then she said now she empowers others with wellness strategies. Wellness is a key word for her, to achieve health, manage their stress. Stress management is a key word for her, and create balance in life. So work-life balance is a key word for her. Her first line says, as a wellness expert and catalyst for healthy transformation, a little bit about her. Then she talks about how she helps busy professionals achieve health while excelling in their careers. So keep that in mind when you're working on your profile. I want you to use first person, but it's not always I. It's how you help other people. And also, this is a great place to include your contact information again, okay? So put your email or your phone number, however you feel comfortable or you best want to be reached via LinkedIn. And then one more tip about the about section. I want you to write short paragraphs, okay? Not one really, really long paragraph, because nobody is going to read it. They're going to have to dig to find that information. And I don't want you to just do bullet points, okay? I want it to sound conversational, okay? Imagine you're sitting across the table and talking to somebody. What would you share with them then? Okay, so that's Angela's about section after we work together. And more recently, Angela, again, the beauty of the internet and of LinkedIn is you can change your banner. She changed her banner, and now she talks about health, resilience, and happiness. She's got a call to action, which is book me today. And then she has her email and her phone number. And then you can see her headline says she ignites health, resilience, and happiness worldwide. So keep that in mind. Very important points. Real quickly, I'm going to open it up. Laurel, do we have any questions here?
Yes, Deborah. One question comes in of why not include number of years of experience in the about section?
You could. I mean, you could say, after 30 years working in the natural health foods industry, I've discovered my passion is for teaching others about healthy diets. I help people explore gluten-free cooking. So again, I'm making this up on the fly, but you can say how many years of experience. The one thing to keep in mind is that you do have an experience section. So in there, they're going to see how many years of experience you have, unless of course you're jumping into something new, totally different. You want to shift and reinvent yourself, which a lot of people are doing right now. Okay, they're looking at, well, okay, I have all this experience in operations and customer service, but I've been working in the hospitality industry, and right now that industry is not doing very well. So I want to shift maybe to some other industry. So you want to focus on what those strengths are and the skills you have that you could bring to another industry. Okay, and then maybe in your about section, you could say, I'm interested in whatever that new industry is.
Great.
Any other questions?
Yep, we have a few more, Deborah.
Okay.
What do you do if you don't have a lot of connections? And can you talk about how to accept invitation requests from people who you do not know?
I will get to that in a future slide. So
Great.
hold that thought, because I do talk about that.
What if not looking for a job, but just want profile out there for contacts, info, or general purposes?
So that's a great question, because do you know that 73%, almost 3/4 of the people that are on LinkedIn, of the professionals, they use it for networking. As I said in one of the earlier slides, they build it to create thought leadership and to show that they are an expert in their industry. So you still want a really robust profile, but you have to remember it also takes engagement. Okay, so if you want to make those connections and those contacts, it's not just about reaching out to people you don't know. Okay, it's looking at what are they sharing on LinkedIn. So let's say I want to connect with Laurel, but I don't really know Laurel. I've heard about her through somebody else at the university. So I might want to just start following her first. See what Laurel posts. Comment on what she posts, like what she posts, or share what she posts. Because then she's going to get notifications that Debra Jason liked you, Debra Jason commented on you. And over time, she might go, who is this Debra Jason? And then when you're ready, you can reach out and say, Laurel, I've been following you. I love the points you share about LinkedIn, and I would like to stay in touch with you. Can we connect? It's not about a sales pitch, okay? Everybody, here's my motto: ditch the pitch, okay? Hashtag ditch the pitch. You want to first build and nurture relationships. You need to develop that know, like, and trust. I bet you that many of you are on this call and you've gotten those messages, whether it's on LinkedIn or elsewhere, where somebody you don't know reaches out and right away you get a gut feeling saying, they're just going to pitch me something. If I connect with them, their next message is going to be how they can help me 10 times my business in 30 days.
Great. Thank you, Debra. Let's do 2 more questions and then move on.
Okay.
Is it better to try to create a longer about section for search engine optimization, or to be as concise as possible for human readers and recruiters?
So what you want to do there, as I said, is you have 2,000 characters, and lately some people are saying that LinkedIn increased that to 2,600, but I haven't gotten confirmation. And I'm talking about characters, not words. The important thing to keep in mind with any marketing tool is if your message resonates with people, they're going to scan it first, but then they'll go back and they'll read it. So you put in what you think you need to say to get your message across without being verbose. Okay. If it's too short, it may not be engaging enough. Okay. If you take a look at my LinkedIn profile, which is linkedin.com/in/Debra Jason, you'll see in my about section, I use subheadings. Those subheadings, one of the reasons I use them is to break up the content. Another reason I use them is they have keywords in them. And the other is to help people's eye flow. Okay, so keep that in mind.
Great, thank you. One more question and then we'll move on. What is your opinion on endorsements, needed or not?
So we're going to talk about skills and endorsements, so stay tuned.
Great, thanks, Debra.
Okay, so let's move on to fact or fiction number 6. Customizing your LinkedIn URL helps your profile show up higher in a browser's search results. Fact or fiction? I see fiction, fact, fiction. Okay, we've got a combination of answers from fact or fiction. So let's find out what the answer is. It is a fact. So here's the mistake that people make. When you sign up for LinkedIn, okay, and you get your LinkedIn profile, what you see at the top left is you'll get a URL that looks like that. It says linkedin.com/pub, your name, and then a bunch of numbers. What you want to do is customize that URL so that it's linkedin.com/in/your name. One, it makes it easier for you to remember. So if you want to put a link in your email signature or put it on your business cards, then you don't have to remember all those numbers. And then once you do that, if someone is searching a browser like Google or Bing, and they're searching your name, if you have a customized URL, your LinkedIn profile is likely to show up higher in a browser search results. If you've ever searched anyone on Google, let's say, you may have noticed that what pops up many times are LinkedIn profiles or social networking profiles, even before their own websites. So go into your LinkedIn profile and customize. And I tell people to do the best to use your name, okay? Not something cute. Use your name. If your name is popular, like Jane Smith or Jane Doe or John Doe, then when you type it in and you hit that save button that you see on the screen, LinkedIn will tell you if it's not available. So if it's not available, then you want to put in maybe Jane, middle initial, Jane A. Doe. If that's still not available, maybe you do J.A. Doe, but always try to stick to your name, okay? Because this is your personal profile. This is your personal branding. So keep it. with your name in mind. Okay. So real quickly, the first 4 mistakes that we discovered are not having a photo on your LinkedIn profile. And again, it should look professional looking. Doesn't mean it has to be a professional photographer. Remember, you want to optimize your keyword phrases. Okay, so think about, what would somebody search? They don't know me. They don't know my name. What might they be looking for? Especially if you're in the job market right now, what keyword phrase would they be searching? And try to be specific. Mistake number 3 is not completing that about section. Okay. Mistake number 4 is not customizing your LinkedIn URL. So let's move on to fact or fiction number 7. All you have to do is create a LinkedIn profile and people will interact with you. It's just that easy. Fact or fiction? Fiction, fiction, fiction. Yes, lots of people have gotten that one right. It is fiction, because if the mistake that people make is they put up a profile or barely put one up, and then they don't get involved. Remember, one of the opportunities you have with LinkedIn is to build deeper engagement with your professional community. So as I mentioned earlier, you can go out there, build out your profile, okay? Make it engaging. And then when you're on LinkedIn, go follow somebody. If there's somebody, let's say you are job searching and there's a specific company that you want to work for, and you found someone who's on LinkedIn that might be a good in for you. Don't reach out right away and say, hey, I'm looking for a job. Start to follow that person. Okay, start to comment on what they're posting or like what they're posting, because your name's going to start showing up in their feed, in their notifications. So get engaged with that person. Okay, then you can, over time, reach out and say, like I mentioned earlier, Laurel, I've been following you on LinkedIn and I love what you share about ABC. I'd like to be connected with you. Always, by the way, and I will get to this, always when you want to connect with somebody, send them a personalized message. Okay. One of the questions we had, I'm going to get to it, is what do you do when you don't know that person? So stay tuned. We'll get to that one. So remember, get involved, get engaged, build and nurture those relationships so that you develop that KLT factor, strengthen that know, like, and trust. Fact or fiction number 8. And somebody asked about this, so here's where we're going to talk about skills. Fact or fiction, listing skills that you want to be endorsed for is a waste of time on LinkedIn. And excuse me one second, I'm going to take a sip of water here. See what people are saying. Fiction, fiction, fact, fact. Okay, let's find out what the answer is. It's fiction, okay? And here's the reason why. There's a 17% increase in your profile views if you have at least 5 skills listed on your profile. Okay, LinkedIn lets you put up to 50. Don't think you need to do that, because as you can see, when you go to someone's LinkedIn profile, you're only going to see 3 at first. There will be a button that says show more so you can see more. But what I want you to keep in mind is this is another place for keyword phrases. Okay, so you can go in and you can add skills that you want to be endorsed for, and they can be specific skills. Instead of just saying sales, you might say sales management or health food sales, whatever industry you're in. Again, specific. If you have 5 or more skills listed on your profile, then you're 33 times more likely to be contacted by other LinkedIn members. Okay, so somebody did ask a question about skills. Yes, they're important because, one, it helps you build social proof. So if somebody is looking at you and you think, I want to be known for LinkedIn marketing, and they see that you've been endorsed, and then you can see LinkedIn says these days endorsed by, and they tell you some of the people who endorsed you. You might go, oh, I know that person. They endorsed Debra. That's awesome. So it helps you build that social proof, your credibility, your authority in your industry. Now, for some people who are beginners or who say, I really haven't paid much attention to my profile and now I'm going to add some skills, how do I get those endorsements? Reach out to some people that you already know, like, and trust, and ask them very nicely, I'm trying to boost up my LinkedIn profile. Would you just take a second and endorse me for, and tell them 2 or 3 things you want to be endorsed for. Okay. And make sure those are the 2 or 3 that are at the top of your profile. Okay. You can go in and you can move those around. Now, what I want you to keep in mind is that skills are different than recommendations. Okay. So when you have skills, they're just skills that people will then click on a button and endorse you for. If they write a recommendation, it's like getting a written testimonial. You can see here's what Angela wrote after we worked on her LinkedIn profile. And way you get recommendations is you ask. Okay. So if you don't ASK, you don't GET. So ask people, you have to go to their profile and ask them. Okay. You can't just put up somebody's LinkedIn, somebody's recommendation. They have to post it. Then you'll receive a notification from LinkedIn saying, Carolyn wrote this recommendation for you. And then you can approve it and it shows up on your profile, or you can hide it if you don't like what that person said. You can also ask them to edit it. The only time I've ever done that is when the person who wrote a recommendation, it was actually an editor and he had some typos. So I told him he might want to change that. I don't ask people to edit their recommendations because I'm happy that they took the time to write it to begin with. So keep in mind, skills and recommendations are 2 different things, but both will help you build social proof. Both will help you with LinkedIn's algorithms. Okay, fact or fiction number 10. And somebody asked this question. So if someone you don't know sends you a connection request on LinkedIn, you should ignore their invitation. Fact or fiction? Let's see what we've got going. Fiction, depends, fiction. Okay. If they didn't write a personal note, it's fact. Awesome. I love your answers. So let's find out. It is fiction. So the mistake that people make is they ignore invitations. Now, yes, sometimes those invitations are worth ignoring, but here's what my colleague Vivica says. She also speaks about LinkedIn. And what you need to do is just be sensible. Okay, you might want to connect with that person because maybe that person is a gatekeeper for you if you're looking for a job, or if you're looking for a vendor, or if you're looking for a potential client. But what I tell people to do is the first thing, you get that invitation and you go, who is Debra Jason? Well, don't accept and don't ignore their invitation. Go to my profile first and see, who am I? Maybe I am a good prospect for you. Maybe I'd be a great affiliate partner for you, or maybe I'd be a good vendor, or maybe I'd be the good entry into a position for you. So here's what you should do. When you go to LinkedIn, on the top of your LinkedIn profile, there's a black navigation bar, and one of the buttons says My Network. When you click on My Network, you'll see what you're seeing on the screen, all the invitations that people have sent to you. Okay. I have whited out their names for privacy. But then when you click up in the right-hand corner where it says See All, you can now, and this is if they haven't sent you a personal message already. These people did not. So when you see all, then you can message that person. And this, by the way, is a great way to start a conversation and to start building that engagement. So here's a very simple template you can use. You get an invitation from Laurel and you don't know her. So you go to your invitations in your profile, you hit that message button and you say, hi, Laurel, thanks for reaching out, but I'm curious, were you referred to me or were you simply searching LinkedIn? It helps me to know how people connect with me. I look forward to hearing from you. And then you sit back and you wait and see, does Laurel answer back? Now you're starting a conversation. Now, a few things might happen. Laurel doesn't answer, and you say, okay, I think I'm going to ignore her. Or she does answer and she says, oh, I'm reaching out because I heard you speak at a webinar that was sponsored by the University of Colorado, and I love the tips that you share. I'd love to stay connected with you. And then you go, oh, okay, let's start. And then you start chatting in the message box and building that relationship. And then you accept her invitation. The third thing that happens, and sadly happening a lot more these days, is somebody says, oh, I reached out because I see that you are I sold real estate for 10 years. I lived on the island of Kauai, and it's on my LinkedIn profile. And I get messages from people who say, I see you're a realtor and I want to help you 10 times your business. Well, now they're pitching me something and I don't know them. And look, we all have something to sell, but we don't like to be sold to. We want to first be led into it because we have a desire or a need or a want. So be authentic and genuine and ditch the pitch. Okay. So that brings us to fact or fiction number 10. The biggest mistake professionals make on LinkedIn is treating it like a dating site. Fact or fiction? I see fiction, I see fact, I see fact. Fact, people do that. Yes, people do that. But here's the correct answer. This is one of those trick questions because it's fiction. People do it. But for all the years that I've been on LinkedIn, it's only happened to me twice. And both were very, very similar, where I got the invite. There was no explanation. So I sent a message and said, were you referred to me or were you simply searching LinkedIn? And both gentlemen said, well, I'm a widower. I have 3 children and I'm looking for a wife and a mother to take care of my kids. And for those of you who are at dating sites, you would want to swipe left right away. What I did was I told them both, this is not a dating site, and I deleted them. So it is a mistake people make, but it's not the biggest mistake. And I will talk about the biggest mistake in a second. But right now, I just want to offer you a free 10-point LinkedIn checklist. Okay, this is something you'll be able to print out, sit by your LinkedIn profile and go, yes, I did that. Yes, I did that. Did I create a robust and optimized profile? And I believe Laurel or Megan will put a link in the chat box. It's at rightdirection.com, LinkedIn 10-point checklist with hyphens in between each of those words. So check out the 10-point LinkedIn checklist. Now that brings us to what is the biggest mistake? So if you want to type in the chat what you think the biggest mistake people make on LinkedIn is, type away and let's see what some of your ideas are. What is the biggest mistake people make on LinkedIn? Not including their photo, not having a profile in the first place. Yes, that could be. No job history, controversial posts, too informal, not updating recently, ignoring LinkedIn activity, setting it and forgetting it. That's a great one. Yes, many people do it and then don't do anything with it. So I'm going to share with you, and this is my philosophy. I have had other colleagues agree with me on this. The biggest mistake that people make is not personalizing their connection request. Okay, I think somebody mentioned that in the chat box earlier. So here's 2 points. When you want to connect with somebody, always go to their profile first. Okay, don't click. You'll see when you're on LinkedIn, people you may know or people who have viewed this profile also viewed so-and-so. Don't click connect from there because then LinkedIn will send out the generic invite. You won't have an opportunity to write a personal message. When you go to someone's profile, and I'm talking about on your desktop or on your laptop, I will talk about mobile in a second. Go to their profile and then hit the connect button and you'll see a box that looks like this that says customize your invitation and make it short and sweet. Debra, I attended your LinkedIn program today. I love the tips you shared. I'd like to stay in touch. And then hit send. Okay. Now, there is an exception to the rule. Oops, let me go back here. And that's when you're on a mobile device. So when you're on a mobile device, go to their profile, but do not click connect. Okay. There is a little button that says more with 3 dots. or sometimes it just has 3 dots. Click on that and you'll get the drop-down menu you see on the right, and then you'll see it says personalized invite. And again, it's just something short and sweet, okay? But do always send a personalized message to let someone know why you're reaching out. But please ditch the pitch, okay? So let's go over how do you avoid these common mistakes. And I'm sure you've all guessed the answers to them because it's pretty self-explanatory. You include a photo on your profile. Make sure it looks professional, okay? Now, the exception, for example, I have a client who's a gourmet chef. And so his photo is him in a white chef jacket with vegetables and fruits on a commercial kitchen counter. Totally appropriate for that, okay? Dog photos are appropriate if you're a dog groomer or if you're a vet, okay? But otherwise, make your photo professional looking so that people get an idea of who you are and whether you're trustworthy and competent. Include keyword phrases on your profile. They have to be within 6 strategic locations. And this is not about stuffing keywords. It needs to be appropriate. Where it's applicable, then use that. Complete that about section, okay? Share a little bit about who you are and then how you help people. And remember, keyword phrases go in there. Customize your LinkedIn URL. Get involved and engage. List specific skills you want to be endorsed for. Don't ignore those invitations to connect, okay? Check that person out and see, maybe they would be a good person to connect with. And personalize your own LinkedIn invitation. So when you reach out to somebody, let them know why you're reaching out. Short and sweet. Now, real quickly, I want to just go through some results that people have gotten when they use LinkedIn, when they engage on LinkedIn, when they build profiles and they develop that thought leadership. This was a marketing student, okay, who started to write long form articles. You can write articles on your profile. They kind of look like a blog, different than just putting up a post. And that person was an intern for a hockey team, was writing articles and received 2,000 clicks and views on her articles. And as a result, she was contacted by several professionals in the sports industry. This is Dawn. She's a colleague of mine who is a speaker. And she said a prospect found her on LinkedIn several years ago and then has been an ongoing client ever since. She has booked a series of webinars after somebody found her on Twitter, but then they followed her on LinkedIn. And then another prospect searched LinkedIn, found her, and then hired her to create videos for them. This was an author who wanted to speak at a conference but didn't know how to get to the director. Now keep this in mind. They connected, or he connected using LinkedIn, but didn't start pitching the director. He nurtured the relationship and then eventually was invited to join the faculty. So I want you to type in the chat, what's one change you're going to make to maximize your LinkedIn experience, to maximize and create a robust LinkedIn profile? I want you to tell me one thing, just one thing that you're going to do. So let me take a peek at the chat. Adding keywords, better photo, listing 5 skills, beefing up these are all great. Update your background banner, get more involved and engaged, start publishing posts more frequently. I love that. Thank you so much. Now, the tip that I have for you is do it as soon as you can. Okay, just that one step, start with one, because it's best when it's fresh in your mind to take action. Okay, so you've written it down in this chat. Now I want you to take action. And what we're going to do real quickly, for those of you who want help, I do offer one-on-one consultations. It's a 2-hour meeting. We do it these days by Zoom. There is an investment involved, but if you email me, and Megan or Laurel, if you want to put my email in the chat box, Debra@rightdirection.com, and that's spelled W-R-I-T-E. Get a hold of me within the next week, and I will let you know what this special pricing is, and I'd be happy to work with you. This is what Keith said after we worked together, and that was that he learned more in 2 hours than he did in 6 months trying to do it on his own. So just a reminder, this is your LinkedIn checklist, okay? 10 points that will help you, that will remind you what we covered today so that you can go through your profile and make sure you've done everything you can to create a robust and optimized profile. These are the many ways that you can reach me. Obviously, LinkedIn is one of them. And then I think we have time for questions. Do we have more questions popping up, Laurel?
Yes, we do, Deborah. Thank you. As a reminder, if you have any questions, please submit them via the Q&A interface, and we will be sending out a recording of today's presentation to all registrants tomorrow. Our first question is, I'm moving from one discipline to another, and I'm wondering if you have any tips to help me move into an entirely new field.
So my first question would be, do you already have a job, in that new field, or is it something you're trying to transition into? And so you want people to hire you in that new field. So let's take it one step at a time. So if you're transitioning, meaning you already have a job lined up in that new field, go to your experience section and add that new position. Very important. What a lot of people do when they go to their experience section is they take whatever job title they've been given, like director. Well, director is very broad. Put a keyword phrase, director of customer service or customer service director, and then put a description. Many people put their LinkedIn profiles together and they leave out the description field. It's a great place to put keyword phrases. So that's one way to handle it. Put that new job in your LinkedIn section. You might want to adjust your about section to talk about this new field that you're in. But if you're looking for a job, let's say, and you want to transition into a new field, then you need to look at your about section and talk about, your interest and what you could bring to that field. Think of yourself. When I do LinkedIn consults, actually the last 2 that I've done, people were looking for jobs. And like I said, one of them was in hospitality. So he does want to transition. So he talks about his strengths. What can he bring? How can he help? He thinks of himself as the product, okay? And then talks about how he can help other businesses. He doesn't say, I'm looking for a job and I can help you do this. He talks about what he excels at. And then he can use some of those keyword phrases if he's looking in the organic food industry. I keep bringing that up because Boulder's popular for that field. But think about that and then incorporate it that way. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, Deborah. Our next question is, how important is it for your work experience entries to have descriptions of your responsibilities and accomplishments?
So it's very important. One thing I want you to differentiate, your about section is about you and how you help people. Your job experience is that specific job. And whatever, I don't know who was that submitted that question, but my answer would be absolutely accomplishments. What I tell people is measurable accomplishments. So were you working at a company and you increased productivity 10%, or you helped them fine tune a database so they now were able to go from entering 10 customers in their database to 10,000 customers. What were your accomplishments? Were they measurable? Now, the other kind of accomplishment you may have had that you can add to your LinkedIn profile is a certification or a license. Okay, there's a section for that, or an honor or an award. So if you achieve those things, put those in those particular sections in your LinkedIn profile. So yes, I want to reiterate, your about section is about you and how you help people. Your job experience is what did you accomplish and achieve on that job. So many people make the mistake of repeating what they put in their about section back into the job experience. They're 2 different things. Okay? And that's also how you differentiate your resume. Okay, your resume doesn't have an about section that's 2,000 characters. You hopefully have a cover letter when you submit it. Okay, but on your LinkedIn profile, your about section and your job experience sections are 2 different things.
Thank you, Deborah. Our next question comes from Emily. Going back to your slide of using your name, she said her name is when she searches her name, there's over 500 people with the exact same name. So in this case, would you recommend using the business name, or do you have other recommendations?
So I'm assuming she means when she's going to customize her LinkedIn URL.
Correct.
So I said use linkedin.com/in/your name. So again, if your name was Jane Smith, try Jane A. Smith, whatever your middle initial is, if you have one. Or try your first initial, middle initial, and then, so J.A. Smith. I do recommend you try to keep it close to your name. Now, because I don't know if you have it, but some people have company pages on LinkedIn. So that's where your company name would come in. But if you're absolutely stuck and you can't, maybe trying to think, I was just going to say if you're Jane Smith Jr., but that usually doesn't happen with women. But John Smith Jr., think of things that are close to what your name is. Hopefully that helps you.
Thank you, Deborah. Our next question comes from Maureen. Do people misuse LinkedIn who are not really that person, or are there filters on LinkedIn to prevent scammers?
So sadly, Maureen, you're right. There are fake profiles out there. It's unfortunate, but in every phase of business, whether it's social media, people are doing fake profiles. You need to do your best to do your own due diligence. So when you check out their profile, and sometimes they're pretty clever, it might say that you have 20 connections in common, and you go, oh, well, Laurel's connected to them, so I should be too. But take a closer look. One, does their photo, let's say, match their name? It sounds odd, but some might have a female photo and they're actually showing their name and it looks like a male. And I don't mean any disrespect to gender issues, okay? But maybe their professional headline says they're one thing, but you look at their experience and it sounds totally off kilter. So there are some signs for doing that. And unfortunately, I don't know how you could overcome it. You can report them or block them like you do in other places, but sadly, there are fake profiles. So you just need to use your gut instinct and check out their profile first before you decide whether you're going to connect. And many times you might find this does happen where you connect and then you start getting messages. Well, go out, delete it, and move on.
Thank you, Deborah. We're moving into our final question. Should I connect with friends/old friends who are not in my field? Do I really need to get to 500 plus connections? I generally like connecting with people I have a professional relationship/connection with.
That's a great question. So my philosophy is it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. Okay, so if you want to focus on your industry, that's fabulous. Many people who are relatives or family, if they're on LinkedIn, they'll reach out to you. You can connect with them if you want, but it is a professional network. So I wouldn't worry so much about, do I have that 500 connections? The thing about having the quantity is when, let's say, you are rolling out something that you're trying to launch, a program or something. Obviously, the more people you have in your network, the easier it is to reach a greater field of visibility. But you can't, obviously, if let's say you had 5,000 connections, you're not going to build and nurture those relationships one-on-one with 5,000 people. Okay, most likely they're going to be a handful of people, or maybe a little bit more than that, that you really do stay connected to, that you see showing up in your profile, in your home when you're scanning through, that show up repeatedly. It's because you're engaging and they're engaging, or you have people in common. So I tell people, don't worry so much about the numbers, worry more about the quality of the relationships. And there was something as I was saying that, Laurel, that I think you and I talked about earlier that I wanted to mention, and now I forgot what it was. Sorry.
No worries, Deborah. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to everyone for joining us for today's presentation. And again, thank you for Deborah for this great information. At this time, we invite you to provide your feedback on the webinar by answering the following poll. Question: on a scale from 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this webinar to a friend or other CU Boulder alumni? We thank you in advance for submitting your feedback. As a reminder, all webinar attendees will receive an email tomorrow with a link to the recording of this presentation, as well as a survey. To view upcoming webinars, as well as previous recordings, please visit our website at www.colorado.edu/business/alumni. We hope you will join us for our next webinar, which is Friday, as Dr. Matthew McQueen presents on the epidemiology of COVID-19 1 year later. In the meantime, have a great rest of your day. Thank you for your time, and go Buffs.